My name is Jessica, and I am a 32-year-old part-time housewife. I've been married to my husband, Chris, for 4 years. However, we don't have any children. Simply put, I am infertile. Initially, we tried to conceive naturally, but nothing worked. That led us to visit a doctor, where my infertility was confirmed. I was desperate for children, and the diagnosis left me devastated and unwilling to do anything. Chris comforted me throughout this time. If you conceived a baby, that would be great. But even if you don't, it doesn't bother me at all. You know, what matters to me is to be with you, Jessica. Chris. All I need is you, Jessica. A baby is a blessing. If we get a chance, that would be wonderful. But don't stress yourself too much about it. His kind words were a huge relief to me. At work, people knew about my infertility as I had taken time off for hospital visits, which made me feel quite ashamed. Some even made snide remarks, making my days tough. Therefore, only having Chris on my side was comforting. However, my own mother blamed me. She threw harsh words at me, though she knew how much I suffered from infertility. Jessica, still no children? If you dawdle, you'll end up with a late pregnancy, you know. Rebecca already has 2 children. My mother even called me and made such snide remarks by comparing me to my sister Rebecca, who never said such things to me. My mother emphasized that Rebecca already had 2 children, which really hurt me because I wanted children too. Hurry up and get pregnant, I'm tired of waiting. I can't help it. I've been told I have difficulty conceiving, and even with treatment, there's been no success. That's just an excuse. If you weren't making excuses, you would have conceived by now. In the old days, you'd have been divorced if you hadn't had a child within 3 years. What era are you talking about? Mom, you're not that old. My mother holds outdated views, saying unbelievable things like being divorced for childlessness after 3 years. There are people today who choose not to have children deliberately. Does that mean they see no value in marriage? My mother likely can't understand those who decide not to have children as she's negative towards them. I believe a baby is a gift, and I did not want to be criticized by anyone, even by a blood-related parent. Every day was depressing. Such calls made Chris's comfort feel meaningless. My mood was gloomy daily. Fed up with her calls, I quickly blocked her number. But my mother realized she had been blocked and came to our house all the way to lecture me. You weren't answering my calls. You blocked me, right? What are you thinking? I just don't want to be lectured or rushed about having children. Lecturing you? I'm saying this for your sake. Look, I brought this today. Open the paper bag. What's this? These are pregnancy supplements. I bought them for you because a friend recommended them. I've recommended them to others too. They contain plenty of folic acid and other beneficial ingredients. Try them. The supplements looked suspicious. I didn't recognize the packaging or the company name. My mother had taken out a large quantity from her bag, laying out 20 packets on the table. Buying so much was crazy. Were these expensive? Well, quite so, each packet costs $50. That much? I bought them thinking of you, so be grateful and take them. I didn't want to consume something so pricey and suspicious, so I didn't plan to take them. It felt wrong to throw them away, so I shoved them into a nearby box. I thought I'd dispose of them on garbage day. Then, suddenly, my mother started saying she wanted a 2-family home. She has a meddling nature, and frankly, she hasn't let go of her children. She says she's worried about her children, but it was a nuisance for us. However, as my father was sick at the time, we decided to build a 2-family home. Chris was not a son-in-law or anything, so I thought he would be reluctant. But he willingly contributed money for it. I don't mind at all. I'm worried about your father, so let's do it. My parents won't mind either. Really? They've already retired early and are enjoying life in Malaysia. They think I should just do what I like. Chris's parents had retired early and moved to Malaysia. They seemed to have made money through real estate investment or something and were living in a beautiful condominium. So, Chris couldn't see his parents much and said he wanted to take care of my parents from now on. He really is a kind husband. So we decided to build a duplex house. I didn't really want to be with my mother, but we had to because my father was sick. His illness had progressed to the point where he couldn't leave his room much. A caregiver comes to help, but I was still worried about him. It seems like my mother doesn't take care of my father herself. She's always out and about. While the duplex wasn't finished yet, she kept coming over to our house unannounced. She brought a large quantity of those strange supplements again, and we struggled to find a place for them. I had thrown away what I received before, but now there were more. I wondered if we could really live together like this. Even though it's a duplex, we're on the same property and will see each other, and her meddling is obviously going to be a problem. Finally, the duplex was completed. It was a very beautiful house. Upon seeing the house, my mother made a shocking statement. "Great. From now on, I will live with Rebecca and her family. You, who have no children, are cut off. I'll just take the house from you." "Why?" "We provided the funds for the house, you know. Even after giving you those supplements, you still haven't gotten pregnant. That's why a useless older sister like you should just be cut off. It's definitely better to live with Rebecca. It's like a dream to be able to live with my grandchildren." My mother was excited about living with my sister and her husband. But then my husband said, "Well, didn't you know? Rebecca and her family are leaving the States tomorrow. I think their flight is in the morning. Alan got a job transfer to Spain." "Wait. I haven't heard anything about that. Why didn't Rebecca tell me?" "That's terrible." My mother was nearly hysterical. She didn't know that Rebecca and her family were moving abroad. We knew that Rebecca and her family were moving to Spain. Rebecca had told us. My brother-in-law, Alan, is Spanish. He came to the States after graduating from university and worked for an American company. However, he couldn't stand the long hours and the lack of vacation days. It might have been a bit of homesickness as well. Gradually, Alan was getting depressed. Worried about him, my sister suggested they move to Spain. After his secret job hunting, Alan interviewed online with a local company and successfully got the job. Thus, they were moving to live in Spain. Their children, aged 2 and 3, can speak both languages, so there shouldn't be too much to worry about. When we told my mother, she started crying. "That's terrible. To think that Rebecca just suggested that to Alan on her own." Well, Alan was getting depressed, so it couldn't be helped. Rebecca is also fluent in Spanish, so there's no worry. Since Rebecca had studied in Spain, she'll surely manage everything abroad. So we won't see them often anymore. Going so far away. Right, I think you won't see them anymore, because Rebecca didn't like you. What? Remember those brain-enhancing supplements you gave for the grandchildren? Oh, yes. She said they were a nuisance. I don't think Rebecca suggested moving to Spain just for Alan. She probably did it to get away from the weird supplements you bring. If they move far away, they won't have to see you and won't be bothered anymore. Really? She hated me that much? What a thing to do. Rebecca said she would never see you again unless something happened to Dad. She plans to live in Spain for the rest of her life. I don't like being unable to see them. It seems my mother hadn't realized that she was disliked. Bringing all those brain-enhancing supplements and bothering them, my sister had found it a nuisance. Probably, Alan thought of my mother as a strange woman. She didn't want to associate with such a person, not even if she's her own mother. So, ostensibly for the sake of her husband's mental health, my sister decided to flee abroad. Then, wondering where these suspicious supplements were coming from, I investigated the company listed on the package. It turned out to be a company involved in a pyramid scheme. No wonder they looked suspicious. They were clearly shady, and there was no way I would take them. I planned to throw them all away but kept some to submit to the police. As for that ridiculous supplement, it's a pyramid scheme, right? I heard you've been selling it to other people lately. That is. Don't you know that's illegal? You're forcefully taking people to cafes to sell it, right? That approach is dangerous. Should I call the police? Well, this is a serious issue. Looks like you're going to be arrested. Wait, I haven't done anything that bad. I was just selling them thinking of everyone's health. That's what makes you a busybody. You really are an overbearing woman. Don't you know everyone dislikes you? Before I knew it, I was yelling at my mother. I had never talked back strongly before, but I don't want to think of her as a parent anymore. She's just a toxic parent, intrusive and annoying. That's why even my sister dislikes her. People who have been victimized by my mother all complained about being forcefully sold to or solicited. Anyone would hate that. My mother didn't realize that everyone disliked her. She's self-righteous, thinking everyone is happy as long as she's satisfied. It's all about her, and she never considers the inconvenience of others. I took out my smartphone and made a call. The contact was the police. Hello, yes, I'd like to report something. It's about a pyramid scheme. It seems my mother has been involved. I just realized something was off recently. Yes, please. Within 10 minutes, the police had arrived. My mother was trembling as the police approached and burst into tears just before she was put into the patrol car. No, I hate the police. Let me go. Help, Jessica. Goodbye. I will never associate with you again. So, take care. Good luck. Thus, my mother was arrested. She had repeatedly solicited for the pyramid scheme, resulting in a sentence of less than 1 year in prison or a fine of $3,000. My father, who was nearly bedridden, was furious about this. He didn't seem to think about paying the fine for her. Since my mother couldn't pay the fine and her actions were malicious, she was imprisoned. Afterward, my mother was released. However, I didn't let her into our house. My father had already passed away by then, so in the end, it was just Chris and me living in the duplex. Please let me in. You sold that house, right? Yes, we sold the old family home before Dad died. It didn't sell for much, though. I have nowhere else to go. Even relatives drive me away, and no one will help me. You're my only hope, Jessica. Can you just stop interfering then? It's a nuisance for us. I don't want any involvement. When I got angry, my mother snapped back at me. Who do you think raised you? You and Rebecca are such ungrateful daughters. Just let me in. My mother then broke a flower pot nearby, seeming satisfied. I was so frustrated that I said, "It seems you want to be in trouble with the police again." "I'm calling them." "The police again?" "Of course. I wish you would stay in prison forever. Just because you're a parent doesn't mean you can do whatever you want to your child. Enough is enough, you're a nuisance. Stop it. You said you wanted to cut ties. Now, this really means we're cutting ties. Isn't that what you wanted? That's cruel, I didn't mean it seriously. Did you think you could say anything just because you weren't serious? No matter what you think, I'm seriously cutting ties. I called the police again right then. Chris made sure she couldn't escape, and she was taken away by the police again. She never learns. It's headache-inducing to think such a person is my biological parent. It makes sense why my sister hates her. Then, I filed for a restraining order. Even if the legal parent-child relationship can't be severed, I don't want her near me. If anything happens, I'll rely on the law. Perhaps because of that, my mother never showed up at our house again. Now, Chris and I live peacefully in the duplex. We now have a child, an adopted one. I wanted a child so badly that I stopped treatments and decided to adopt a child living in a facility. I thought it might be a way to contribute to society. Now that I have a small child, my company has been considerate, allowing me to work from home. It's good that our company allows telecommuting if requested. I still keep in touch with Rebecca, and it seems Alan is doing well. The nephews are also having fun, which is great. Toxic parents really only think of themselves. I want to take my mother as a negative example and be careful not to be overbearing with my child. I'll strive to enjoy my parenting and work for more fun days ahead.